Okay,
Yeah. Take you to areas.
we're ready to go. Okay. It is 6 o'clock on Tuesday, May the 24th, 2022. And I call to order the regular board meeting of the Wenatchee School District Board of Directors. And we will begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I welcome everyone to this board meeting and thank you for joining us. Doy a todos una bienvenida a esta reunión de la mesa directiva del Distrito Escolar. Gracias por su asistencia. The meeting is conducted in English, but we do have translation services so that citizen comment may be spoken in Spanish and be repeated in English. Si alguien quiere hacer su comentario de ciudadano o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. Tenemos disponible un servicio de traducción. The first business item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and I believe that we will have a request to modify it.
Yes, I am requesting that we pull the contract, the CVCS contract for the time being.
Okay, so it's removed from the agenda for further consideration. So there will be a modified consent agenda. Is that the only change? Okay, I'll then ask if there are any moves to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as modified.
Okay, thank you, Julie. And when?
I second.
Thank you. So we have a proposal and a second to approve the consent agenda as modified. Is there any discussion?
Is this the right time to ask why we're pulling that contract? Did I miss a conversation?
No, I feel like I've not had enough time to review the previous contract. I want to see the change, the difference in what the old contract and the new contract. And I have some pretty serious concerns about the contract. Understanding that this is a bill passed into law, something that we must do, providing the school-based healthcare services. But I've got some concerns about it and want to compare the old contract with the new before it's just moved through. I have a lot of concerns actually, but I think it's going to take some time to look at them and then be able to discuss them together at the next board meeting.
And I believe from the superintendent, there is time for further consideration by request and still meet the deadline.
Okay, so that's my next question because it says the dates are 5/10 of this year.
We'll adjust that
Okay.
piece, but it really goes into effect the July
July the 1st, I
Gotcha.
believe.
July 1, sorry.
Thank you.
If that is the case, ask for all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as modified. Please signal that by saying A. Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous approval of the consent agenda. The next item on the agenda is citizen comment, which is the time for the board to welcome and listen to public comment. Comments do need to be scheduled beforehand. We have a 3-minute time limit. I will warn speakers when their time is about to expire, as it isn't easy to watch the clock. And I believe we have 3 people. Kim, is that correct? Okay, so I welcome the first person.
Click, click. Well, there it is. Before I start, I want to let you know that I am referring to 2, a Senate bill and a state bill, and I've included them in their final wording along with a revised Washington Code information because all of those go in tandem with what I'm talking about. Can I give those to Kim when I'm done? Also, I wanted to let you know that we'll give more credibility to this little talk is that I started in Wenatchee schools in 1950, and so did Mary and Dick Black. I hope they don't mind my telling you. That either makes me look crazy or gives me more credibility. One of those 2 things. Since January 1st, 2020, children in Washington State ages 13 and up can obtain confidential treatment using their parents' insurance without parent consent.
Yes, we're gonna improvise.
Thank you. Washington State's elected officials passed Senate Bill 5889 and House Bill 1225, eliminating parent involvement in treatment of their kids' condition, including gender dysphoria, sexually transmitted disease, mental health counseling, and abortions. This without parent consent for ages 13 and up. Parents are rightfully concerned that school-based health clinics that now have the authority will get kids information leading to some irreversible treatments such as puberty blockers, sex hormone therapy, and even gender surgeries. Parents would never know until it's too late. And this really is a real possibility, as astounding as it seems to me. Regulations are now in place to make it harder for parents to be the main decision makers for their kids. This breaks a trust that should exist between school boards, and parents. In January of 2020, one parent got this information out of a newspaper, a 2020 newspaper. It doesn't seem like a bad thing until you understand that parents of children starting at age 13 have been completely cut out from knowing what their children are receiving in either medical or mental health care. She stated further, we're trying to get other parents to understand that they're slowly taking away, law by law, our ability to be the parents to our children. And from the Child and Parental Rights Campaign, this quote, "These laws destroy any vestige of Washington parents' fundamental constitutional right to protect the health and well-being of their children. They strip parents of the authority to make medical and mental health care decisions, making children essentially wards of the state. The laws pave the way for government to supersede parental authority." Wenatchee parents, our teachers unions, our school board must stand against this overreach that threatens the health and safety of our kids and adolescents and threatens the God-given authority of parents to parent their children. These laws have effectively tied your hands and hindered the decision-making efforts of every school board in our state. I ask that we together be vigilant with you in the care of Wenatchee School District students, standing with parents and finding a way to protect the parent-child relationship that our lawmakers, along with OSPI, seem to be working to remove. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I was going to bring this back up to you, but I'm not sure I will now. Okay, push. That's-
Norm, thank you very much for being the cleanup guy.
I thought I cleaned it up.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, that's all.
Looks like it's going.
That's all. Okay.
Which one do you need? Okay.
No, who is?
Okay.
Norm, are you the second speaker? No.
Well, Cheryl was reading the same things I was reading today. I was reading the information this afternoon about the meeting tonight, about the CVCH contract. On page 5, it states, Washington state regulations allow minors age 13 and older to independently consent for and receive the following confidential health services: alcohol, drug abuse treatment, outpatient medical health treatment, birth control, pregnancy care, and STD HIV testing. What jumped off the page for me was number 2, outpatient medical health treatment. Moving on to page 12, I'm not going to read all of the pages here. It states in C, section 7, pharmaceuticals may be prescribed and dispensed to our children without the parents' consent. They can prescribe psychotropic medication through the school. So I looked up the definition of a psychotropic medication. It's a medication that has effect on your mind. So without the parents' consent, a child can be prescribed medication, psychotropic medication. Parents are the primary caregivers of their children. Parents are required to house, to feed, to clothe, and take care of their children until they're 18 by law. But a 13-year-old can prevent their parents from being involved in their medical situation. I'm not just here to complain about what's written here. I'd like to offer a solution to this situation. I'm asking that you give parents a fighting chance to be involved in their child's medical decisions. I request that you provide a form for the parents to present to their child before a trauma or a problematic event occurs. If you're in the middle of, oh my gosh, what's happening, before any trauma happens or before the child is having a problem, present this document, just a simple form that between the ages maybe 12 and 13, you can sit down with your child and get the child to sign parent consent, give the parent access to their medical or decisions and their well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And, the third person is, okay.
Good evening, members of the board. As I address you, I want to address you corporately. As members of the Wenatchee School District School Board, you are the elected representatives of the electorate. As such, you are to represent the voters, including the parents of the student body, the students of the Wenatchee School District. But before they became students, they were already children of the parents who are primarily responsible for their care and for their training and for their upbringing. By law, as my wife said, the parents are the primary caregivers and responsible for their children's care and their welfare. That responsibility does not end when they become students, nor does it shift to the school board, nor does it shift to the school administration. That responsibility continues throughout their children's childhood, and that childhood goes all the way to age 18. Notwithstanding state law, which says that children at age 13 can make decisions to keep their privacy of their medical condition or medical records, or perhaps their medical trauma. The parents still bear that responsibility. And I know most parents shoulder that responsibility as a treasured burden, one that they will carry with them throughout that child's life. So, school board members, my question of you is, are you representing the parents' views? I know most of you are parents. Are you supporting parents in the development and the maturation of your children and their children? Are you supporting them in the decisions that must be made in the natural course of events as children grow from elementary school through the traumatic years of middle school and on to the challenging years of high school? My wife used the term, are you giving the parents a fighting chance to raise their children according to their values? I hope you will support the overall electorate to include the parents in the raising of their children. especially as they perform their role as parents throughout their child's childhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and giving your comment. The next item on the agenda are the two ASB reports. And do we have Avery and Soraya online?
Hello.
Who wants to go first? Okay, Avery.
Okay, so we are currently finishing up one of the busiest times of the year, which is spring. Prom and our first annual Panther Field Day went very well with a high turnout for both. The same goes for Panthers in the Park down at Walla Walla and Senior Sunset put on by our Senior Senate. While the majority of ASB is winding down, the Senior Senate has been hard at work preparing for the class of 2022's graduation and other senior-oriented activities. Our graduation will be taking place on June 3rd in the Apple Bowl. I'd like to thank the Wenatchee School District and my amazing Wenatchee High School ASB for a great year. Thank you.
Thank you, Avery. And actually, I want to say something to both of you in between, so I don't say it twice. First of all, congratulations. And secondly, you've been amazing ambassadors for your ASBs, and we really appreciate the way you've shown the goodwill and generosity of both your high schools. And I'm guessing this is the last time we'll hear from you both, so we really appreciate it. You can have a great time when you go onwards, and I hope you're training your successors for next year really well. I think you've had elections in some cases. So appreciate that. And Soraya, pardon me for speaking but first to both of you, but I didn't want to say it twice.
Okay. Hi, I'm Soraya, and I'm the president of the Leadership Club at Westside High School, and I am here to tell you about what's been happening. So first, our senior mentors, they took a trip to Wenatchee Valley College on 5/18 with about 20 students to see some of the awesome hands-on programs in action. Tomorrow is our senior celebration, which we will be holding a small celebration for our senior mentors and their mentees to play some games and thank them for everything they've done for our seniors. Our field day for WIA is coming up on May 31st, and we are excited to play some games with the kindergarten through 8th graders for a fun end of the year celebration. Prom was last Friday, and the staff thinks it was the best one yet. We had a great DJ who donated their time, lots of glow-in-the-dark dancing, games, and pictures, and it was all really fun. Graduation is on June 7th, and rain or shine, it will be held on our back lawn at 7 p.m. The board members, you should have already received your invitation, so please join us in celebrating our graduates. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Soraya. And I didn't realize it was that big a celebration tomorrow. I look forward to it. The next item is the first reading of some policies. I'll turn it over to Paul and the policy committee.
Thank you, Martin. First up, we have policy 4200. This is around creating even greater access for parents. So the current policy is revised within the upper portion. A lot has moved from just shall to will, but down below under the visitor aspect, talks about parents are assured access to their child's classroom as well as school-sponsored activities for purposes of observing class procedures, teaching materials, class conduct. However, such observations must not disrupt the classroom or learning activities. Just one more opportunity for making sure that our parents are welcomed into our schools as we're inviting, as we get further and further from COVID, making sure that our parents are welcome into our schools. This policy continues to really highlight that. Catherine, Maria, anything on that one?
No, it's just a reminder, like you said, this is an update to our current policy. So this policy has been in place for a while, and I'm glad we are reviewing it and updating it and put it in front of parents and the audience just to let parents know that this has always been an opportunity to invite the public, parents, the community into our schools and engage, not engage, but see what our district and our buildings are doing.
And I agree with that, absolutely, except that for the last 2 years, it hasn't, the policy's been in place, but we've had rules that have stopped
Mhm.
that. So I think it's been really important to, as Maria was saying, re-announce this policy to the public so that they understand. And we've tried to do that through
Yep.
different means of announcing that, yes, parents, we want your volunteers back, want you as volunteers back in the elementary schools and the middle schools, such a critical time.
Mhm.
But then also, I'm just going to highlight this while we're talking about it. Lunchtime at the high school, can't tell you how much fun it is if you got a free hour. One of the things that we have started that in conjunction with superintendent, with Eric Anderson, the principal, is parent volunteers at lunchtime at the high school. I have been there, I think, 6 or 7 times now, and it has been fantastic. I think there were a lot of parents I heard throughout the start of my time here on the school board wanting to be back in the schools, wanting to see what's going on, because they've been kind of shut out because of COVID for so long. There was such a curiosity, what's going on, how are things going, and what are our students doing? So when I approached you with this idea and we sent me to Principal Anderson to find out about it, he was thrilled. He could not have been happier to have parents want to volunteer to come to school, because his goal was for parents to build relationships with kids and for allow the transparency for the parents to see what's going on in the high school, which was something that was so important, having been shut down with COVID, and to be an adult presence there for the kids, which makes a huge difference. Administrators are in the lunch area and the commons area throughout the school, actually, because lunch is allowed, kids are allowed to be in a lot of different places. They're there through the lunchtime, but there's only so many of them, and they have a lot to do all the time, and there are too many kids to monitor as closely as they would like. So parents stepping in really allows them to have a little more freedom in that time and monitor more kids. But just your presence as an adult with the kids there is really interesting. They know you're there, they see you, and they interact, and it has been really fantastic. I think that when we had the gang meeting and Val spoke from Children's Home Society, he spoke about an influence in his life that changed his life. And it wasn't somebody from his community. It wasn't somebody who looked like him, but it was somebody who took the time to reach out and build a relationship with him, and it changed his life. And I think that this is an opportunity for parents to have an effect and change a life of a high schooler. And it's a really, really neat thing. We are still looking for more volunteers to attend the lunchtime. I know school is winding down, but it will be in effect next year, I'm sure. And it just requires a volunteer form that you fill out to have any volunteer status at any of the schools. And I highly recommend it.
Well, thanks for sharing your enthusiasm.
Yeah. And I think she supports this policy.
I think so, yes. And by the way, I want to thank the policy committee for coming back and bringing policies in front of us and catching up after being sidelined by force of other work. So it's good to see that.
Yes.
I think if we just double check that we got any questions in between each policies. Are there any questions on that one? I don't think so. Okay, next one.
Next one, 2021. This is a revised policy really to clarify around library media material requests by community members. Prior, it was listed as citizens, which erroneously conveyed that certain immigration status was necessary for an individual to ask for reconsideration of materials. So the citizen has been removed from that, and it's around community members. So an important change to that policy. Pretty straightforward. The other one, 5410, is quite honestly just from an error of House Bill 1016 around Juneteenth legal holiday. Juneteenth became a state holiday in Washington. WASDA revised this policy to add Juneteenth. However, then they realized that our legislator added Juneteenth to only the list of state legal holidays, found in RCW 1.16, but did not add Juneteenth to the list of school holidays. So all this is, if the board remembers a little while ago, we approved it. Now we're taking it off. Yeah, take backs. So that was also pretty straightforward.
Any discussion on those three first readings? Do we that?
I guess I just have one question on the Juneteenth, because we previously approved it sort of on our own initiative. Now, if this is the repeal, does that impact any of the benefits that we would have been providing to folks who had to work this year on or after June?
No.
19th? Okay.
No, we were not adding that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, okay. In that case, do we have consent to move these forward to second reading? Consensus, okay, that's good. The next item is the Jewel lawsuit proposal, and I'll turn it over to Paul to introduce that.
Yeah, over 600 school districts in 30 states, including districts in Washington, are seeking to hold e-cigarette vaping company Juul liable for the unprecedented rise in nicotine use among teens. More specifically, the school district seeks to hold Juul accountable for costs school districts have incurred to prevent, intervene, and educate about nicotine use and addiction due to vaping. As up in the high school, it's one of the bigger issues confronting our high schools. We're also seeing it in the middle schools, but high school is where it's very prevalent. Eric and his team at Westside, this is a constant battle. This has been a constant battle for years. This is not something new. So this lawsuit looks to hold Juul accountable. They're hoping that through any monetary damages that would be collected through Juul, that districts will be able to support through funding education, nicotine abuse education, support for interventions for districts, and a multitude of other ideas, including vape detectors within the bathrooms. Students have become very creative with vaping. There are clothing companies out there that literally make it accessible right there in your clothing. So it's super hard to detect, and it's for our principals and assistant principals and others in our schools. It really is whack-a-mole right now with the vaping. So administration strongly supports this. On the fee side of things, there are no costs to join this. The trial lawyers work on contingency basis, meaning that if the district pays, if the districts win or prevails in the settlement, the contingency fee for the trial lawyers is 20% of the award, which is less than the typical 40%. Stevens Clay firm will be doing the vast majority of the representation for the Washington school districts.
Quick question, and the hard costs are not assessed to us either?
Nope, I asked that question today because my lawyer friends sometimes write in a way that I can't understand. So I literally reached out to Paul Clay himself and said, talk to me in plain language. What is this and what does this mean? And it is literally just only based off of any, if they're held liable, they would just take that 20%.
Right. And in fact, we were submitted a clarification on that came out. Yeah. Because it looks like other schools are in that with not quite the same friendly lawyer and pro bono.
Correct.
Yes.
But great question. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The recommendation in front of us from the administration is that the board adopt the resolution to approve participation in vaping litigation. So we will, it is an action item. So to discuss it further, we would need a proposal to adopt the resolution.
I move that the board adopt the resolution to approve participation in vaping litigation.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have somebody to second that?
Second that.
Thank you, Laura. Have we any further discussion? Nope. That being the case, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Appears we have unanimous approval of adopting the resolution to proceed with other school districts into litigation on that. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is board communication. And maybe we should start on the left with you, Julie, if we're taking turns going this way. That way, Catherine, you get to go last.
I really don't have much. I just want to, my heart goes out to all the families that are grieving today, both in our own district and the tragedies in Texas. I have 2 elementaries and I can't even imagine. So
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. That was brave.
Yeah, I echo what Julie said, and I think it's a reminder that although we have done improvements in our district to keep our students safe, we need to revisit that. You know, I was just reminded by a parent before the meeting as they waited for their child at Sunny Slope, the portable buildings. And although they do have a fence, you know, how quickly anybody could jump that fence. You know, it's alarming, and I know a lot of our buildings have portables. So I think, you know, it's always on our mind, but I think we really need to dig deep down and really analyze our plans and whatnot. On a much happier note, I want to say kudos to the 5 elementary students, school that participated in the strings concert over the weekend on Saturday. Huge shout out to Ms. Vaughn. She leads the strings program in our district for 4th and 5th graders. And it's always fun and exciting to see, you know, the individual schools perform and then come together and have a district-wide event in one building. I don't know how she manages 300 students with squeaky instruments, but it was fun to watch. And I was sad to see her on the board or the personnel report.
Yep.
So haven't seen the posting, hoping that we can continue the program. I know there's a lot of families and students that benefit from the program early mornings. I'm one of those 7 o'clock drop-offs. But anyways, big kudos to all the students and families and Ms. Vaughn who supported their students through that program, and the performance was amazing.
Thank you, Maria. Actually, I'll correct my statement. I'll go last. Laura, do you want to go next?
Sure. Just a shout out to all the athletic teams that are wrapping up their season. In particular, the girls golf team who went to state. And shout out to Doug Merrill, their coach. I got a call from a parent who just really wanted to respect him and call him out for the great support that he offers the girls on the golf team. So thank you to Mr. Merrill, and congratulations to all the athletes.
I echo what you're saying, Maria, about the strings. Avery was in strings and all throughout high school, and we did that big concert. I mean, all throughout middle school and in elementary, and the big concert is really fantastic. And there are more concerts. Orchard is having a concert coming up June the 2nd. But our music programs here are phenomenal. I did that 6:30 in the morning drive for Tuesday and Thursday for 3 years with a car full of kids where I'd have to leave stuff on the side of the road because their instruments filled the car. So important that we continue those music programs and keep them strong. And again, there have been a lot of announcements about so many groups that are excelling, that athletics. Districts just ended for tennis, but that state comes up this weekend. A lot of kids to be really in awe and proud of, and it's neat to see those announcements coming out. It's really important to get that out to the community so that they can see that things are back, sports are back, events are back, and it's just so important for our kids to have that. So I'm going to share a little bit of the things that we've done, or that I've done in the last couple of weeks since the last board meeting. We did have the gang meeting, which was great. Then our board workshop, but after that I went to Valley Tech because on my first visit I wasn't able to visit all the classrooms, and gosh, I got to tell you, what a great place. I would like to sign up for a couple of classes, starting with culinary. The construction I'm definitely into, but it is so well run. Pete Jelsing just really has made that place. They call themselves a family, and having gone into every classroom and met with every instructor, it was just a thrill to be able to do that. And the things that we have available for our kids are remarkable. I mean, the firefighting program, the criminal justice, I'd like to sign up for that as well. Talk about sharp students. Every one of them was in their uniform, just they were giving a presentation at the time, and we got to sit and listen. It was fantastic. Got to taste some food from the culinary classes. There are great opportunities for our students in the Wenatchee School District. And we've got to get that word out more so that the kids know what's available to them. And the teachers that are there, the team, the family that he's put together is just really phenomenal. And I can't say enough good things about them. Also got to go to an assembly, as it were, with the Wenatchee Internet Academy, and then speak with all 12 or so teachers and administrators with the WIA and hear their experiences from the last couple of years. I think it's something that is important. I think as a board, we need to hear from them and what they've done, because this is kind of something new. Didn't really address the need prior to COVID. Clearly, it was a huge need during COVID. And I think that it would be really good for us to hear from them. Again, I was surprised, but I just thought I was observing, but all 12 teachers, administrators spoke and told me what they did, how they did it, why it was so important to them, and why they think that it's such a critical areas for us to continue in the district. So that was really wonderful. And I thank Principal Devereaux for allowing me to do that. Now, back to lunch at the high school. This is the part that's going to make me really unpopular, because I've been spending a lot of time at lunch at the high school. And there are a couple of things that I think that are important. Again, the year is ending, but I think it's something that you will take note of when you come to do lunch at the high school. We, sometime years past, and I don't know exactly how this all went about, but there was a policy change for the dress code, dress policy at the high school. As we've asked now with this new, our meeting on the gang activity, we're requiring that certain things not be worn by kids. And I think what I've been told in the past is that the dress code primarily targeted or focused on the females and what they were wearing. And this is kind of the opposite now. We're looking at, not that females can't wear gang things as well, but now we're looking at, okay, pretty soon somebody's going to come and say, well, it's not fair, or the dress policy only targets males and gang activity. Be that as it may, I think that this is something that we're going to need to address in the future, because it's very challenging, I think, for our administrators and our educators to be handling what some of our kids are wearing. And I can promise you, as somebody who may or may not have done this, what your child leaves in the morning is probably not what your child is wearing when I'm seeing her at lunch. I'm talking about full-on bikini tops. And I don't think that there are many parents out there who think that they want their daughter in school like that. Again, this is going to make me very unpopular, even with my own child, because she's happy to not have anybody bother her about what she's wearing at the high school. But I think we're making it difficult for our administrators there, and we're making it very difficult for our educators to have the kids in that kind of state when they're there. So that's something I think that we need to address. And by no means do I think that our administrators at the high school have been slacking. They are dealing with bigger problems, and this is not on them at all. And I want to be sure to say that about the dress policy and about the tardy and late and attendance issues. And I know their hands are tied as far as attendance and truancy and that kind of thing by state law. But I guess my point is then to the parents and to the students, for both of these things, if we are saying that our goal and our what we must do is to make students future ready, we are not making them future ready by telling them that they can wear anything anywhere. When they go to the job site, you know, unless they're a lifeguard, and even if they're a lifeguard, it's not going to be a bikini. If we're making them future ready, then they've got to show up on time, and they've got to show up. When I was at lunch one day, when the bell or when the lights went off for class to go or for kids to go back to school, I'm not kidding you, there were at least 50 students who were waiting at the tardy slip section of attendance to get their tardy slip. 50 students. So if one of those students goes into each classroom, I mean, you're delaying, that's disrespect to the instructor, the educator, it's disrespect to the staff, it's just disrespect overall. And again, if we're saying we're making them future ready, we've got to have some kind of requirements for attending school and being on time. So those two things, our dress policy and then our attendance and timeliness, tardiness, I think need to be looked at in order to help our administrators. And I think a big part of that is asking for the students to take responsibility and then also asking and reminding our parents, we've got to push that. If we're making them future ready, any job that they have, anything that they go to do, it's going to require those two skills. So thank you. And sorry, kids.
Thank you, Catherine. I'd like to do a little summary too, actually. This is the time of year when we look at culminations of a year and people preparing to go into next year and all sorts of celebrations. And we've heard a lot from the high schools of their year ending things, but then this is happening at all levels. And I'm glad that so many board members and the community much more widely than us are out there, because I think when an adult is present with the students, celebrating with them, or has stuck with them through their, even it's a once a week volunteer or their activities, it makes a difference. It's support that works for the long term. I do want to stress that it's all ages and it's fun to see it. And I think we're seeing people recovering emotionally and activity wise. And we have challenges just as much as we have successes. And then as we go into the summer, I think this is going to be a more active summer than perhaps even last year. So a lot of work's going into planning summer programs that I think is really important. And let's hope that they're very successful. It's very difficult to find enough people who are not tired and exhausted. I'll tell an embarrassing story about myself. I thought it was a fifth wheel in an after school program. And I said, I really can't do the next couple of weeks. And they said, can you please come? Even one day. And so I guess I wasn't a fifth wheel, even though I'm terrible by compared with the people who do it professionally. So I think it's important to remember that. And as we've been asked as board members to go to the professional learning committees at different stages for the teachers. And it's interesting to see some differences if you take a first grade starting a new program and they're together, they're starting, they're cohesive. Then you might see a situation, say in the middle school, where people have kind of lost their way a little bit and the students and the teacher are struggling. They're working really, really hard. We've got to do everything we can to support them. And it is a recognition of reality. But I want to say that you see a huge amount of positivity. We've also got to recognize that it's a long road and all of us need to work together on that. So it's a time of year for celebrations. Let's do it. Let's encourage and let's go forward. So thank you.
I would just add with our graduations, June 3rd for Wenatchee High School, June 6th for Westside, and then June 2nd, and this is a new piece that we've added, is our retirement celebration at the Apple Bowl. Our graduations are a culmination event from our preschool teachers all the way through, and each and every staff member throughout our organization really has helped in this moment that culminates in June 3rd or June 6th. And it's something that did I say 7th? 7th. Thank you. June 7th. I think it's just really important to recognize all of these individuals who worked countless years and have given everything they have to our students and to our community. So I'm excited about our June 2nd retirement celebration to honor our staff. With that, I'll head back over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Paul. The school board will now enter into a closed session followed by an executive session for a total time of 60 minutes to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a staff member. We'll take a 5-minute recess to get there. And I should warn those of you who are very patient, there's one more action item to follow the closed and executive session. Thank you very much for your attendance, and we will exit temporarily. The closed session has been completed. We've returned for the action item number 10. The principal school-based directors, assistant directors, collective bargaining agreement, which is a collective bargaining agreement that requires approval of the board. Paul, do you want to say anything more, or should I?
No.
I think we will move forward to looking for a proposal of approval of this bargaining agreement.
I move for approval of the collective bargaining agreement between the Wenatchee School District and the principal school-based directors.
A second.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Laura. Is there any further discussion on this? That being the case, I'll ask.
Martin, can we do a roll call vote?
Sure. Oh, yeah. So you're not involved. Yes, you're accused. Okay. Roll call vote, please, beginning with Julie.
Aye.
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 So we have 4 votes in favor and 1 recused. Thank you very much. At that point, I left my text, but we will return to executive session for an estimated 20 minutes. No action after that.
20 minutes. Put us on the clock. Liz, thank you so much.
session is extended an additional 10 minutes. The executive session is continued for an additional 10 minutes. The executive session is extended for an additional 10 minutes. board meeting is, the executive session is completed and the board meeting is adjourned.